Welcome back, everyone. Our next presenter is Tetra Bio-Pharma. It trades on the OTCQB under the symbol TBPMF and on the TSX under the symbol TBP, and is a leader in cannabinoid-derived drug discovery and development with an FDA and a Health Canada cleared clinical program aimed at bringing novel prescription drugs and treatments to patients and their healthcare providers. So attendees, please submit all your questions for Tetra Bio-Pharma through this webinar module, and let's welcome its CEO and Chief Scientific Officer, Guy Chamberland. Welcome, Guy.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
All right, the presentation is ready. Floor is yours.
All right, thank you very much. All right, Tetra, as you just heard, is a public company, so I'll skip our forward-looking statement since most of you are very familiar with this. I'll begin with the investment highlights. Keep in mind, as I'm pitching this, we actually have a public offering that's ongoing right now based on our base shell prospectus. So Tetra Bio-Pharma has highly experienced executive, but I'd also add to that our middle management level is also very experienced. And that to me is an important part, because when you're developing new drugs, it's not the time to be learning how to develop a drug. There are many challenges bringing a drug to the various stages. So this for us was really key when we built up our team. Also, all of the employees in the company are incentivized by a performance share unit program to basically, bring this company to major milestones. And this is obviously key in making sure everybody puts, let's say, 200% of their energy behind moving these drugs through the various development stages. Our team is also highly experienced with the Food and Drug Administration, Health Canada, the European Medicines Agency, and dealing also with controlled substances bureaus such as the Drug Enforcement Agency and even Health Canada. We've been, as a biotech, I'd say we've been highly successful taking drugs from discovery to FDA, let's say, authorized trials. And I say that because if you're used to the biotech world, you'll know that it's very challenging to take a new molecule to a clinical stage. Many drugs fail. The success rate of new drugs is very, how can I say, poor. It's about 1 out of 1,000 that actually makes it to the clinic. So in 2019, when we had no clinical assets, we ran multiple, let's say, candidates in parallel, trying to get them ready for the clinic. We were extremely successful because all of our candidates made it to readiness, and you'll see that when I talk about our pipeline. We also have a strong intellectual property portfolio, and by this I mean granted patents, not pending patents. We do have some PCT stage patent applications as well out there. We've also had 5 orphan drug designations from the US FDA and recently 1 from the European Medicines Agency. I'll point out the one from Europe mainly because of all the challenges of companies trying to bring medical cannabis products, say, to Europe. Getting an orphan drug designation for our QIXLEEF product to us was a very positive signal because, the decision to grant an orphan drug status came from the European Commission that obviously viewed our cannabis drug very positively to be able to grant this. We're also in a unique position from a competitive point of view within the cannabis market, not, let's say, the healthcare biotech market, but purely from the cannabis market. Yes, we're basically doing the same type of activity that GW Pharma was doing when it was acquired for $7.2 billion. We're going down the prescription drug path, a path that has existed for decades to bring new products to the market. Obviously allows getting here in Canada, for example, a DIN will get you reimbursement by provinces, and that's key for patient care. And we also have multiple avenues to a strong and long-term growth. We're basically a virtual model like many biotechs. We do rent some facilities to advance our products through the various stages. I'd say certainly our toxicology program, we drive the science, but this is run by preclinical research organizations. This is very typical in the biotech industry, no surprises there. On the clinical front, we design our trials. We manage the clinical research organizations that, execute our clinical trials. Manufacturing is a bit unique. We have what we call our quantum facility in New Brunswick, where we can manufacture sterile GMP-controlled substances for use in clinical trials. We obtained our first drug establishment license from Health Canada in July of 2018, and we've been able to maintain it. We also have a strong compliance group because obviously under the regulations, both Canadian and US and Europe, we have to ensure that all of our, vendors are compliant from a GLP point of view for toxicology, GMP for manufacturing, and obviously GCP from a clinical trial point of view. We also do our own regulatory and licensing. Licensing, I'm not referring to, say, a typical activity of licensing a drug, say, to a pharma partner. This is licensing to get a controlled substance into various, areas in Canada, into clinics, across the borders, etc. So a very complex operation, but one that our team today does very well. A bit about myself, for those of you that don't know me, I've been developing new drugs since 1995. My area of expertise is obviously drug development and regulatory affairs. I was one of the pioneers in drug-device combination products, so you won't be surprised when I describe the QIXLEEF product to you, and also very complex biologics. So this is what kind of attracted me in 2016 to be joined as a chief scientific officer in 2016 of Tetra, to bring basically cannabis and cannabinoid drugs to the prescription drug path. Dr. Melanie Kelly is one of probably the top 5 pharmacologists in the world, specialized in cannabinoid drugs. She's done multiple contracts throughout her career for big pharmaceutical companies in this space. She's published over 120 peer-reviewed manuscripts, and she's obviously the person behind driving our intellectual property portfolio. Mr. Steve Neuron joined the company with over 35 years experience of commercially launching drugs. You'll hear very shortly that we submitted our first new drug application to Health Canada in December of last year, and we're close to the finish. So obviously we are in a pre-launch mode. So Mr. Neuron is getting us ready for this. One thing I think that is very positive for the company is we have a board that's very strong on the financial side and the market capital side. I think this is great because as a company, our strength has been more the operations, regulatory, getting the drugs through the various, stages of development, interacting with regulatory agencies. We have Dr. Brent Norton, who's been an investor for over 25 years. He's also been a CEO in some healthcare companies. So as chairman, he brings some great guidance and support to the executive team. Catherine Old, who's a chairman of our audit committee. She's been a chief financial officer for over 20 years and brings a strong, financial guidance to our financial team, which is excellent because we've been trying to reduce our burn since these new members joined in, which we've been very successful at. John Kim, also a very well-known award-winning portfolio manager. He comes in to really help us drive a market cap vision for our biotech company like Tetra that's really at a transition point in its growth. And we have Dale Whale that comes with over 4 years of experience in the healthcare business sector. So obviously she's coming here as we're doing our transformation and getting ready to launch our drugs. So you see a board that's very complementary to the executive team. What we're really doing, and I think it's really even socially a very important aspect of Tetra, is we're really bringing a new solution to the opioid crisis. Yes, it is an unmet medical need in that the opioids themselves cause a lot of issues from a point of view of managing patients and overdosing in the population. We believe our drug fits perfectly with the definition of what the National Institute of Health was looking for, which is a safe, effective, non-addictive strategy to manage, both acute and chronic pain. Our drug, obviously given by inhalation, I'll go over inhalation very shortly, has obviously a very safer profile than oral administration of cannabinoids because there is no liver toxicity. You'll hear about that, why that's the case. This has been, in our case, proven in human trials. We have a very rapid onset of action, and that is really critical for managing patients with severe pain. High delivery to the CNS, which can only be achieved by obviously intravenous or by inhalation, but intravenous obviously is not practical for a patient care point of view at home. In the hospital, sure, that could work. Relatively low impact on cognitive function. And, that may sound strange if you're familiar with the impacts of opioids on cognitive function. But obviously, if you're going to add a drug to already a patient's, let's say, dosage regimen, you want to be sure that you're not going to worsen their cognitive function. Obviously, we were able to demonstrate to the regulators like FDA that we had a very, let's say, safe cognitive function profile. The first market we're targeting is really the breakthrough pain market, which is a massive market that we expect to reach about $16 billion by 2027. So this is our pipeline. So those that are in the, let's say, full-colored QIXLEEF and Reduvo capsules are the ones that are moving. With the board, let's say our comms technology, Reduvo Adversa, ARDS 003, PP 003, all of these products are ready to initiate their clinical trials. But they've all been halted as we keep our focus, basically ensuring that all of our funds and our human resources are used to driving what we believe will be the two most critical milestones for the company to achieve. And you'll hear when it's coming up in Q1 of next year. Obviously, the verdict for our Reduvo DIN and the QIXLEEF Reborn trial coming out. Our ARDS obviously could be triggered anytime. We are still waiting for response from ICED and from the Quebec government for basically some funding. So if those come through, obviously that would move the ARDS programs. But pending, say, changes in our basically share price and obviously valuation, these products have basically been grinded because we're too much of a small company. Obviously open to any partnering if any companies are interested in the ophthalmics or any of the other programs. Why inhalation? Well, basically, the lung has a huge surface area for absorption, so you can rapidly deliver to the brain. And it's important to get the drug to the brain by avoiding the first pass metabolism. And that's because you transform, for example, the CBD into some liver toxic metabolites, which we don't get by inhalation. And that we've been able to show in clinical trials. We did the full metabolism in humans of the inhalation product of our QIXLEEF drug, and we were able to show regulators that there is no safety concerns at all by inhaling the QIXLEEF for patient care. And that was really critical into the FDA agreeing to approving the Reborn trial. So this is kind of an explanation of how QIXLEEF works in breakthrough pain. I'll obviously comment as well for the regular background pain. So if you look on the left, the orange figure, the bottom is what we call the background pain. So if you have basically a severe chronic pain, that's you. You have a daily pain and you're on possibly multiple analgesics, including opioids, trying to reduce it. Unfortunately, it's rare that a physician can take your pain, say, from a visual analog scale rating of 10 or even 8 down to, below 4. It's a real challenge getting the drugs, how could I say, escalating the drugs until you get an adequate relief. So that's really a challenge. But that represents about 8 million Canadians that are suffering from chronic pain. What we're really working on right now with the Reborn is that spike. So what you're looking at, kind of like that triangular orange shape, I actually prefer calling it a breakout pain than breakthrough pain because it's breaking out from the background. So you get this very acute, sudden rise in pain. And these episodes can happen once a day to 10 times a day in patients. Right now, the immediate release oral opioids is that blue curve. So you take them when you start to get that sharp increase, but unfortunately, it only begins to give you a relief 30 minutes later with the peak about 1 hour. Look at the QIXLEEF inhalation treatment. It basically mimics the curve of the breakthrough pain. So you're seeing a very rapid rise in the cannabinoids in your bloodstream, and obviously, which will hopefully prove in the QIXLEEF clinical trial, is that we will reduce basically the pain. I'll talk about the bottom parts in 2 seconds when I switch slides, but keep in mind, look at the profile, especially look at the QIXLEEF profile on the bottom right. You're seeing kind of like 3 sharp needles. That's very important to understand. 3 key points: time to the effect is 5 minutes, transient let's say, efficacy effect is 4 to 6 hours, which is perfect, but no accumulation of the drug over time. And from a safety point of view in patients, that is very important. So if you look on the left, on the bottom left, you're looking basically at the curve of elimination of, be it immediate release morphine, oxycodone, or even fentanyl. The drug lasts in the blood, so even at 12 hours, you still have some drug left. So you're starting to get some accumulation. So if you get more than one episode in a day, you're going to start to rise what we call the base level, say, of the drug in your blood. And that's where you'll start to get more severe and serious side effects. Whereas with the QIXLEEF, you don't get any. So if you have to take it every 4 to 6 hours, you're never accumulating. And basically you can. So QIXLEEF, in my opinion, once we finish the Reborn trial, we'll be able to position it for physicians really to see the advantage of how you can use it to reduce the use of opioids. And that's really the goal of that trial. On a safety point of view, I won't bother going over these, but obviously the opioid drug side effects are well known, well established, obviously a higher incidence of these serious side effects because of drug accumulation, which we don't have. Rapidly point out, look at our QIXLEEF side effects. A bit of throat irritation is reported, but that's from the hot vapor. That's not from the drug. Patients are trained to take a sip of water and you can eliminate that. Headache does occur. The euphoric mood is actually not a side effect. I put it in there just to point it out. That's actually where the mechanism of action is. What QIXLEEF does, it's a psychoactive. It changes how you perceive the pain. So imagine if I change your threshold to pain and I make it a lot higher, your threshold. That means that physicians will be able to reduce your opioids. And that will be obviously a very positive long-term impact on the patient. We ran multiple trials, single ascending dose, multiple ascending doses, like I said, metabolism, cardiovascular studies. One key message here. One of the side effects you could say, or the reason that you cannot escalate to 4 doses a day of QIXLEEF, is you will be too fatigued to take the drug. Now, if you consider that 85% of chronic pain patients have insomnia due to the pain, well, being fatigued is viewed actually very positively by pain physicians because maybe you'll get the patients to fall asleep at night. And that's really key in the long-term care of these patients. Our Reborn trial is an FDA and DEA licensed trial, and that's really the first of its kind. It's a crossover design, so QIXLEEF, say in group A, you'll get QIXLEEF for 4 weeks, then a washout of 1 week, and then basically the immediate release opioids. Same thing, if you start on the opioids, you'll have a 1 week washout followed by QIXLEEF. Important, our primary endpoint is time to relief at 30 minutes. That's really what we're looking at. But we are also assessing the pain relief at 5, 10, 15, 30, and 60 minutes. And the reason for that is we really want to show in this proof of concept study, basically to the world, how QIXLEEF can be used as an alternative, say, to opioids. You're not going to replace opioids, but you hopefully will be able to convince people that we'll be able to reduce the amount of opioids or even delay their use in these patients. And that's key. The Plenitude trial, this is the background pain. So the Plenitude trial is really key. We're seeing, obviously, in this trial, patients with advanced cancer. We're seeing both the impact of the drug on not just the pain relief, but also on the quality of life. Here is a classic cancer pain trial, and the trial, as we reported almost 2 weeks ago in the, I gotta say, in a news release, safety is as we predicted, and the efficacy from what we can assess is also going as we basically predicted. Our development plan, so you're seeing activities for next year, is basically beginning to get ready for submitting a marketing approval in, let's say, mid to Q3 of 2023. We need to get some toxicology done for the marketing application, need to start to set up our commercial manufacturing, and obviously our Reborn 1 trial. Our goal has been to complete the enrollment before the end of this year, and then having, obviously, the trial ending in early next year. Reborn 2, our goal is to activate it as soon as possible, and obviously our goal is to drive to the market. The Plenitude trial continues. It'll be kind of a second indication after we submitted the first, but what's really important about it, it brings obviously supportive evidence to regulators how the drug can actually reduce pain, but it also provides long-term safety data that's needed for a marketing application. Short note on the Reduvo, which is the new drug application that went to the market. We submitted the marketing application in December of last year, to be precise, December 30th. We've actually gone through the majority of the stages. We're at the last stage, a scientific review. We know the manufacturing review is ongoing. We actually passed our pre-approval GMP inspection, which is key for a biotech, basically telling the regulators that our GMP process is ready for both, obviously, manufacturing and distribution and sale of the product. And this is obviously leads to, once it's approved, it leads to activating our Reduvo Adversa program and obviously the growth to a global sales approach. Tetra's immunomodulator and ophthalmic drug, I'll just add a few things. Obviously, we have multiple patents on this drug, but one of the things that we've been able to show through research that was done by the NIH in the United States in infected animals is that it's also not just, say, an anti-inflammatory drug, it's an antiviral, and it has antifibrotic actions, which is really key. This drug, the company has spent more than 12 years developing this for indications in sepsis and cytokine storms. And obviously, we're on track with our value-creating milestones. So our Plenitude trial, we've accelerated. We are trying to reach 50% enrollment by the end of this year. Reborn targeting, obviously, the last step is completing our enrollment this year. The others have been met. Reduvo, that was submitted. Our QIXLEEF, obviously, big milestones coming in Q1 of next year. And that's really our target. And for those of you that don't know us, obviously, when the market conditions changed a couple of weeks ago, we took a dive along with the announcement of a public offering. So right now we're trading probably around 17, 18 cents, depending on the markets. Total shares are 401, 67 million warrants outstanding. And on August 31st, we reported 8.5 million shares. And thank you very much.
All right, thank you for your presentation. We've got some questions for you, Guy. All right,
Sure.
So from Gary Wicks, are you and your board going to participate in this current financing round? And when can we expect patient enrollment numbers to date? And have there been any additions to the number of sites opening to recruitment? As it is believed that not all sites are recruiting yet due to delays of a various nature. It's about 3 questions in one. If you need me to repeat any of those, let me know.
That's fine. For the first question, obviously, I don't comment on personal things. Every insider of the company is obligated to make its declarations of investments in SEDI. So if a person does invest, obviously, all our transactions are of public knowledge. The second one regarding patient numbers, that's not the type of information we ever gave to a company. Like I tell most people, what you have to be tracking is the date of the end of the trial. That's what we report to the market, because that's based on all of our estimates. There are too many moving, factors in a clinical site to be able to give anything in terms of patient numbers that would be meaningful to somebody that's not, very knowledgeable in the outcomes of clinical trials. And I think I maybe missed one.
When can we expect patient enrollment numbers to date?
Nope. That one I answered. I think there was
Have there been any additions to the number of sites opening to recruitment?
The number of sites, like we report in our management discussion and analysis document that's updated basically quarterly. As you'll see in there, the biggest impact we had when we launched, for example, the Plenitude trial in the sites actually in December of 2020, we reported to the market that the average delay was expected to be about 4 weeks, but even the DA had delays due to COVID, basically staff shortages and problems. And we've seen, as we reported, some sites have taken more than 4 months to get activated by the DA. We're still facing even the same delays. We don't have our 10 sites activated for Plenitude, and that's again due to the DA. So those are impacts that we have. That's a challenge that anybody in clinical development faces. So you find ways of, increasing patient, attraction to the sites within the regulations, because you have to be careful. You can't just say what you want out there. And we also always consider opening new sites to try and increase the enrollment.
Corey Matthews asks, how far along are the phase 2 trials of QIXLEEF, and will the trial be finished by end of Q1?
That's basically our target. So if you look again at our timetable, you could say, you'll see that basically our goal has been to finish the reborn enrollment for the end of this year and having the trial finished by obviously the end of Q1. That's obviously dependent on multiple factors, but that's our target, and we update that quarterly.
John Thornton asks, being in cannabis, are you having any trouble banking?
No, we've never had any problems banking, and the reason is that we are not a recreational or a medical cannabis company. We've been developing it as a prescription drug, so we have the same status as any pharmaceutical company that develops narcotics.
Mario C says, I see you have about 30 million in shareholder equity and only a $50 million market cap. What is your monthly burn currently?
Our monthly burn, we've been, like I explained in the presentation, since the new board, we've been working really to drive it down. We had reported back in the past that obviously the monthly burn depends how many patients are actually treated every month. We had burns that range between 2 to 3, and over the last months, we've been able to drive it down to about 1.5 to 1.2 million per month. And that's obviously the impact of really focused on QIXLEEF and focused on Reduvo. And in any case, we didn't have the funds to be moving all the other trials at the same time. So now everything's ready to go into the clinic. So it's kind of a unique opportunity to drive down the burn because we weren't big enough to be rolling, say, more trials in parallel.
Great. Earl Torza says, how far away do you believe you are from sales and further cash flow positive?
The sales, obviously, if we get our DIN, which obviously it's hard to predict when Health Canada will issue a DIN, but based on the most conservative timeline, we do expect it in Q1 of next year, which would then trigger, hopefully, the launch of the drug within Canada as soon as we can. That's obviously our goal, certainly, is to begin to have revenues by Q3 of next year.
Mary Gill wants to know if you have any joint ventures with any major producers in this space.
Well, we continue to have a good relationship with our, I guess, previous supplier, which was Afria, which has become Tilray. We have a very good relationship with them, and that continues. And we're always trying to build and ensure supply for a basically global distribution of QIXLEEF.
Last question due to time. You do have a lot more questions on here, Guy, but Gary Wick says, thank you for participating here on our conference. And do you plan on attending more of these such conferences to continue to spread the word about your company? The more the better, he says.
Yes, actually, this is maybe my third in the last 2 weeks. So, and I got another one later today. So very active at this right now.
Great. Well, we have a lot more questions for you, but we will send them to you directly due to time. But please continue what you're doing and join us again. And thank you for your time and presentation.
You're welcome.
All right, everyone, stay with us as we transition to the next presenter. We'll be right back.